What is up, guys? I'm your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and today we'll be going over the best way to play T'Challa, Black Panther in Marvel Champions. I'll also be going over some different aspect hooks and some different synergies, in those aspects with T'Challa's hero kit. I'll also be going over some deck lists, with those aspect hooks, and then finally I'll show an example playthrough, with what I think is the best way, so you guys can see an in-game and realistic example of how it will actually play out on the table. I want to give a huge shout out to everyone that gave me feedback for my last video of the best way to play Peter Parker's Spider-Man. You guys really like this format, and I'm really glad to hear that, so I want to make more videos of that, and I will make this into a series here. And the way that I'm going to be deciding, which hero I should do the next video on is through the channel members. So I did promise, the channel members for a new members poll series after we did the weekly members poll gameplay. So basically for the weekly members poll gameplay, I asked the members of this channel which hero I should play against which villain. And for YouTube here, we're only allowed to have 4 options, for a poll. So we just did 4 heroes at a time, going through from the core set all the way to the most recent releases, and that took 15 weeks. So this series here will also be, running for 15 weeks, and we'll be going over 15 heroes, and in my opinion, the best way to play, each of those heroes until we go all the way to the newest releases here. So for, the first week of this, we asked, the 4 heroes here of the core set: Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, or She-Hulk, and the channel members voted for Black Panther here. So you guys could probably tell by the title of this video, we'll be going over the best way to play T'Challa here, in this video right here. And I also give a huge shout out to the channel members, because I also asked them for their own opinions, and to have a poll here, asking them what they think the best way to play Black Panther is. And I'll be featuring you every single week, every comment on this post right here, and going over what you guys think are great aspect hooks with the hero, and the ones that align with my own opinions here as well. So you guys voted for aggression here as the majority vote, with the least votes injustice, and then leadership and protection being kind of similar. Since we're only allowed to have 4 options on a YouTube poll, I was not able to put the pull aspect, but some weeks I'll probably swap that in if I think the pull aspect is better than one of these aspects for that particular hero. So yeah, aggression won here, and I'm gonna go over all the comments and go over the different aspect hooks for Black Panther. So let's jump back over here to T'Challa here, and let's go over justice first, because I did not get any comments talking about the justice aspect with Black Panther here. So Black Panther does not have that many justice hooks, but he does have some good alter ego stuff. Not a lot though. So you guys can see here in his alter ego, he doesn't have like an action or anything like that, but he does have a setup ability, Foresight. Search your deck for a Black Panther upgrade and add to your hand. Shuffle your deck. So you start the game, with 6 cards in your hand after your mulligan, and you can grab a Black Panther upgrade and add to your hand. So that's pretty good, for that first turn. You'll basically have 7 cards in your hand. But other than that, he has pretty much a blank alter ego here, which is very unique to not have like that extra ability. There are a few other heroes like that, right? Like Cable, for example, has a set ability, and he doesn't really have any other, action or anything to do in alter ego for the rest of the game. So yeah, he doesn't have that basically. So there's not that much of a motive to flip down with his identity card. But he does have a few alter ego cards here, like the Ancestral Knowledge is a 1-cost event. Alter ego action, choose up to 3 different cards in your discard pile and then shuffle them into your deck. This card is okay. You get him back into your deck, not necessarily to your hand. So like it's nice to like get like a Nick Fury or like a double resource back, but it's not like the greatest thing in the world. And it does require a resource to pay for, right? So 2 effective resources because of the card itself. And then the main card that we will want if you're playing Injustice and you want to flip down to alter ego a lot is definitely going to be the Golden City right here. So this is a 2-cost support. It's an alter ego action, so we can play this card in hero form or alter ego, but you only trigger the effects in alter ego. And the effect here is to exhaust the Golden City and then draw 2 cards. Super duper simple effect, but very thematic to T'Challa, because he's very rich with the vibranium. And in the Golden City, whenever he's in there in alter ego, you can draw a bunch of cards there, right? This card is super duper powerful. It feels very, very fun drawing a bunch of cards. If we compare this card to the Avengers Mansion, which is a card that I do like a lot, it's half the cost of the mansion and basically double the draw of the mansion. So super powerful, except it is an alter ego action. So the Avengers Mansion you can use in hero form or alter ego. This is limited to the alter ego, but definitely makes flipping down to alter ego very, very worth it to capitalize on this effect. Obviously, if you're in hero form, like you start to turn to hero form, and you flip down to Alter Ego, you can use this action, draw 2 cards, then the next turn you start off in Alter Ego, and then Golden State will be ready back up again. You can exhaust it again to immediately draw 2 more cards. So really, T'Challa's economy is very, very good if you have access to Alter Ego. So of course, like with any other hero, to access Alter Ego in the Justice aspect, you'll want stuff like Under Surveillance to increase the threat threshold of the main scheme. You'll want stuff like Sonic Rifles to confuse the villain, all that basic stuff. But other than that, T'Challa does not really have any other, specific justice hooks here. So let's hop over to the first member's comment that I'll be featuring here. And let's go over Nar Antler's comment here. He says, "You know what I voted for. I'm stoked to see what it is regardless of aspect." So you guys do not know Nar Antlers. His favorite aspect is protection. He loves protection. So he always votes for protection here. And T'Challa, I actually think, has a very cool protection hook here. So he doesn't really have, anything through his cards. He doesn't really have any defensive events or anything like that. But on his hero form here, he does have a printed Retaliate 1. He's the only hero in Marvel Champions to have that as his hero ability, but he doesn't have any other ability. One really cool new card that recently came out from Nightcrawler's hero pack is Change of Fortune, where if you defeat an enemy during the villain phase, you can exhaust Change of Fortune and draw 2 cards. So having the Retaliate 1 does count as T'Challa defeating an enemy during the villain phase. So if Black Panther defeats a minion with his Retaliate, he can trigger the Change of Fortune. And there's ways to buff that up as well. So I want to give a huge shout out here to Nar Antlers, because in the comments here, he actually talked about how Ready for Fight and specifically Change of Fortune on a hero with Retaliate printed on the identity card is very, very good. Combine that with Electric Armor and Flow Like Water. So yeah, he totally spoiled this video right here with this comment, but that's okay. Like he's saying here, great minds think alike. I do want to show off the deck that Nar Antlers created here and he sent me. So it's called, yeah, Protection Rules Now. And yeah, the main card with this deck is Change of Fortune, which I think is a great card for T'Challa. So it's a 1-cost protection upgrade. Like I said, it came in the Nightcrawler hero pack. And after you play this, it's max 1 per player. As a response, after you defeat an enemy during the villain phase, exhaust this card to draw 2 cards. Okay, so Retaliate works for that, but you can put in other sub to buff that up as well, right? So if you have like the Electrostatic Armor, 1-cost upgrade, after you defend against an attack, do 1 damage to attacking character. And upgrades do count as, as an extension of the hero. So if you defeat an enemy through the Electrostatic Armor, it does count as T'Challa defeating the enemy during the villain phase. So if the minion attacks T'Challa and he defends, well, he'll do 1 damage with the Electrostatic Armor and with his printed Retaliate 1 there, so he's doing 2 damage. You can stack on even more damage with Flow Like Water here. It's a 2-cost upgrade, and then after you play a defense card, you can do 1 damage to the attacking enemy, and you can have defense cards like Sidestep here, 1-cost defense event. Here, interrupt whenever you would take any amount of damage, prevent 3 of the damage. If you pay for this card using an energy resource, do 1 damage to attack an enemy, right? So this will do more damage. It will proc your Flow Like Water, and then since you're defending with the Sidestep, you'll also be able to proc the Electrostatic Armor, and you'll Retaliate 1 here with T'Challa right here with that Retaliate, right? So you have the Retaliate 1 doing 1 damage, you have the Electrostatic Armor doing another damage, you have Sidestep doing another damage, and you have Flow Like Water doing another damage. So that's 4 damage, during the villain phase, punching like a minion that attacks you. So you defeat that minion, then you can trigger the Change of Fortune and then draw 2 cards. So a very, very fun hook there in protection for T'Challa. I definitely think that if you're playing T'Challa in protection, this is probably the most fun way to do that. Let's hop back over to the member comments here, and we'll go over let's go over Winston's comment here. I want to give huge shout outs to Winston, and he called out the Dora Milaje as a game changer, and I definitely think that that set of cards that came in Shuri's hero pack is very good with T'Challa because it's very on theme. So basically, if you guys do not know, the Dora Milaje is a basic card. It's a 3-cost support, but you can play for free if your identity has the Wakanda trait. So since Black Panther and T'Challa both have that trait, he can play that card for free. So he gets like a bonus to that compared to any other hero. And there are currently 3 Dora Milaje allies, also basic cards there, so you can include it in any aspect that you're playing with T'Challa. So I think that that is a very fun way to play him. And then they all synergize with each other, triggering their specials on those cards. So similar to T'Challa, like his Wakanda Forever triggers the specials of Black Panther upgrades, right? So these upgrades right here, they don't trigger their effects unless something procs their special. So since, it's a similar type of effect there, right, where T'Challa is doing Wakanda Forever to trigger the specials here, and the Dora Milaje specials can trigger the specials of the, Dora Milaje allies, and they can also proc their own specials. Unfortunately, the Dora Milaje, that set, they're kind of closed off and they don't directly interact with T'Challa's kit, right? Because the Dora Milaje cards can't trigger the specials of Black Panther upgrades, and then Black Panther, his Wakanda Forever's cannot trigger the special on the Dora Milaje ally, right? So the nice thing is that he can play them for free. So you're doing a leadership aspect, you can definitely do that and then buff them up and Voltron them because the Dora Milaje support can heal up those Dora Milaje allies, so you can keep them in play, forever, healing them every single turn to heal up that consequential damage. So I think that is a fun build with T'Challa to, Voltron the Dora Milaje ally to give them upgrades and play them in leadership to really, buff them up. You can also play Black Panther, in aggression with the Dora Milaje ally since they are basic cards and give them a boot camp so that all of them have, an additional attack. Try to keep them around for a long time. You can use first aid to heal them up because if you're acting with all of them, you won't be able to heal up enough, with that Dora Milaje support. But that's definitely a very fun way to play Black Panther and to play him in a way that's pretty thematic to his character. Another leadership hook that Black Panther has is with his identity-specific ally Shuri right here. So she's a 2-cost ally with 1 thwart, 1 attack, but 3 hit points. Having 3 hit points is pretty high for a 2-cost ally. She has a response here. After Shuri enters play, search your deck for an upgrade and add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. So Shuri here, she has a on-play ability, so we don't really want to Vulture her. Keeping her in play for a very long time is not going to be that beneficial for her effect because she wants to enter play and probably leave play quickly so she can enter play again. Being able to search your deck for any upgrade is pretty powerful because it doesn't limit you to, just the Black Panther upgrades, but basically any upgrade in your deck, including those protection upgrades that we just talked about, like Change of Fortune, Electricide Armor, and all that stuff. So although I think Shuri is a very powerful ally and has a very good effect in her own right, I don't think that she's that good to Voltron and keep in play. We want her to, get defeated, make the call, bring her back, and keep on recurring her. So I think leadership recursion would be a good way to, recur Shuri a lot, get those upgrades, get the Black Panther upgrades, get them in play very quickly, and get the specific ones that you want because Shuri can tour them. I also want to go over the team up card here for Shuri and T'Challa, and it's basically called Heart of the Panther. And in order to play it, you need to have both Shuri and T'Challa Black Panther, in play at the exact same time. So it's a very powerful team up card because you can look through your discard pile for a Black Panther upgrade, put it straight into play, and you can trigger the specials of 4 Black Panther upgrades. So it's basically triggering the Wakanda Forever here if you're playing as, T'Challa. So very cool and a powerful team up card, but I don't think it's that good with T'Challa. I think that it's better with the Shuri Black Panther hero instead, because the Shuri ally here, if you're playing, as T'Challa, this Shuri ally, like we just talked about, is not that beneficial to keep in play and to Voltron, right? She basically has no more effect after she enters play, so she's just being able to, throw for 1, attack for 1, and then you probably want to chump block with her because she's not really impacting the board that much after, that on play. If we were talking about like the T'Challa Black Panther identity specific ally for the Shuri hero, that team of card works way better, with that ally because each time he activates, he gets a powerful effect off where it can trigger the special of a Black Panther upgrade. So that's a very good ally that you want to Voltron and use the team up card with. But to be able to hone down on having both Shuri in play and the team up card in your hand is going to be a lot more difficult because there just isn't any other benefit to having, this Shuri ally in play versus having, that T'Challa ally in play. So yeah, I think that team up card is kind of built more for Shuri, and it's going to be really cool if you're playing, like a 2-player game with T'Challa and Shuri to be able to always play that event. But if you're just playing, Black Panther in true solo T'Challa, I mean, then that team up card with Shuri, I don't think it's going to be the most synergistic type of build. Let's jump back over to the member comments over here. And the final comment that I got was from Curtis. So huge shots to Curtis here. And he's saying that, there's a lot of votes for protection retaliate builds, but he's voting for aggression. And Black Panther having 2 upgrades with weapon traits in his kit, the energy daggers and the Panther claws, allows for some good aggression decks. Black Panther can lean into cards like Mean Swing, Fusillade, and Firepower that require weapon upgrades to be exhausted. Okay, I totally agree with him here. This is also my pick for what I think is the best way to play T'Challa Black Panther, and that is in aggression with cards that exhaust weapon upgrades. So yeah, if you guys do not know, let's jump over to T'Challa's kit here. He has the Panther Claws here. It's a 2-cost upgrade, and it has the weapon trait. There are very few weapons in Marvel Champions that do not have to exhaust to trigger their ability, right? Because the Panther Claws here, they have the weapon trait and they have the special, attack, do 2 damage to enemy, 4 damage if it's the final step in sequence. The way that we trigger the special, like we talked about earlier, is through the Wakanda Forevers here, right? Where you can resolve the special of each Black Panther upgrade, you control in any order. Well, when you play the Wakanda Forevers and you trigger the special of the Panther Claws here, you don't actually have to exhaust the Panther Claws, they stay readied up. Same for the energy daggers here, which also have the weapon trait. This one is you choose a player, deal 1 damage to a villain, and each enemy engage with that player, and 2 damage instead if it's the final step in the sequence. These do not have the weapon traits right here. So these are the two ones that we're looking at. Black Panther upgrades that both have the weapon trait, and weapons in Marvel Champions synergizes really well with aggression cards that want to exhaust a weapon to do, X effect. So for example, in the Venom Hero Pack, we're introduced to a card called Fusillade, where it's a 2-cost aggression, event, and it's attack event. You can exhaust a weapon upgrade you control to do 5 damage to enemy. So if you play that card, you can exhaust Panther Claws, do 5 damage to enemy, and you can still play Wakanda Forever and trigger the special here of the Panther Claws. So that is very, very powerful to get, that double effect there. However, I'm not the biggest fan of Fusillade because it's essentially a 2-cost for 5 damage card with an additional cost of exhausting weapon. So you need to have, the weapon in play already before you play the Fusillade, right? So, that's okay, but 2 costs for 5 damage is basically on par with any identity-specific, attack event, and it's slightly under par for a lot of the, better, super duper good attack events. Like if we think about Spider-Man Miles Morales and his web shot, it's 2 costs to do 4 damage, but if you pay for it with energy resource and you get that kicker, then you can also trigger Venom Blast, deals an additional 2 damage, and you can stun the enemy. So basically for Venom Blast, it's 2 costs for 6 damage, and you can stun an enemy, right? Compare that to Fusillade, 2 costs for 5 damage, and you have to exhaust a weapon upgrade that you control. So of course, I'm comparing to identity-specific attack events, which will usually be better than, aspect cards. But the point that I'm making there is that it's not really that crazy of an effect, right? Like, sure, you have that nice synergy with T'Challa exhausting his weapons that don't need to get exhausted. But, like, what are we really doing with that? We're just, being able to do damage that several other heroes have, on par or above damage to in their kits anyways, right? So there's nothing crazy with that. Another aggression event that synergizes with the weapon upgrades is Mean Swing, and this card came out in Thor's hero pack. So that's pretty efficient, right? It's just 1 card and it costs 0, so it's just 1 effective resource to do 3 damage. That's very, very good. If we also compare that to Skilled Strike, if you don't have the weapon upgrade to exhaust, you're getting 1 less damage. So definitely the Mean Swing is good, but my problem with this card is that it's tied into your basic activation. So like if you need to use your basic activation to thwart, or if you're already stunned, or if you like needed to defend or something like that, then you won't be able to play Mean Swing that turn. So you lose a little bit of versatility because you have to be readied up and you have to be able to exhaust your character to make a basic attack. So although it's a very efficient card and synergizes well with T'Challa, I just felt that the versatility wasn't there. So you guys may be asking me here, why is aggression weapon upgrade exhausting the best way to play T'Challa Black Panther? And you probably guessed it, that's with one of the newest aggression cards that came out in Winter Soldier's hero pack called Firepower. Firepower is so good, guys, and it's even better with T'Challa here. So it's a 1-cost aggression attack event. Hero action exhausts up to 3 weapon upgrades you control. For each weapon upgrade exhausts this way, choose an enemy and do 3 damage to it. This attack gains ranged. Okay, what? So it doesn't have the liability of a Mean Swing because it's a separate attack instance. So your hero can already be exhausted. You can thwart or like do whatever you want and still play Firepower. And it's way, way more efficient and cheaper than Fusillade, especially for Black Panther here. So since Black Panther pretty much always wants, his Black Panther upgrades out for his Wakanda Forevers, we want to have the Panther Claws and the Energy Daggers, in play. So with these 2 weapon upgrades in play, if you're playing a Fusillade, you can exhaust one of them, to do 5 damage. But with the Firepower, you can exhaust both and then do 6 damage. But not just 6 damage, you can choose a different enemy and do 3 damage to it. Or you can choose the same enemy and do 3 damage to it twice, right? But attack also has range, so you're avoiding retaliate. 1 cost for 6 damage is insanely efficient and better than pretty much any identity-specific attack event. In addition to that, the downside of needing to exhaust weapon upgrades, pretty much T'Challa does not care about that because he's going to have these in play anyways. So if you're running Firepower with Black Panther, it's basically just 1 cost to do 6 damage. That is insane, guys. Okay, let's jump over to an example deck list here. So this was a deck that I used to take on Ultron with the Infinity Gauntlet on expert mode here with Black Panther. And we have a bunch of allies here, because T'Challa, he's very rich with his Vibranium right here, his double resource that you can use to pay for all the allies. And the main focus of this deck is, of course, Firepower. So we have 3 copies, of this card in the deck. And we also have a Yarm here, which synergizes really well with the firepower because it's another 1 cost weapon upgrade with that weapon trait there. As a response, after your hero attacks an enemy, spend a physical resource and then deal 2 damage to enemy. So this guy right here does not have to exhaust to trigger the response. So you can trigger this response an unlimited amount of times, per turn, as long as you have enough physical resource to spend, and as long as your hero is attacking enough. But having another weapon upgrade in play that does not need to exhaust can help us hit, the full 3 weapon exhaust for firepower, 1 cost to do 9 damage, insane efficiency, and really good AoE area of effect damage because you can choose 3 enemies and do 3 damage to each one. So you take out a bunch of minions here as well, and the attack as ranged. Another really cool thing with this is since it is an attack, this will also proc the Yarm because after your hero attacks an enemy, this includes basic attacks and attack events. So after you play a firepower, you can actually spend a physical resource and you have an extra firepower, in your hand. It's a physical resource here. So you can actually use the firepower to proc the Yarm and then do an additional 2 damage to any enemy that you pick again, right? So it's basically 4 different enemies, or you can do it all condensed on 1 enemy. So much versatility to, do 3, 3, 3, 2, or like 3, 3, 3, 2 all on 1 enemy and do 11 damage there, right? So much synergy there with Black Panther, and even more synergy with Yarm is, let's jump back over to T'Challa over here. So the Panther Claws is an attack because it has that attack word right there, and same with the Vibranium Suit. This one is not a weapon, but if you trigger the special here, it does count as T'Challa attacking because it says attack right there. So if we use the Wakanda Forever to trigger the special of Panther Claws and the Vibranium Suit, it does count as 2 separate instances of T'Challa attacking. So for both of those instances, you can also trigger the Yarm, spend a physical resource, and do 2 additional damage to the enemy. So with just one Wakanda Forever, let's say you play Wakanda Forever, you trigger energy daggers, it does damage. You can spend a physical resource, trigger Yarm, do 2 damage to the enemy, and then the Wakanda Forever will continue finishing. You trigger the Panther Claws, do another damage to whatever, and then you can spend another physical resource and do another 2 damage to another enemy. So very, very powerful synergy with T'Challa, not just, with the firepower, but also with this kit itself. This is super duper fun and definitely my favorite way to play Black Panther. We also have the hand cannon just as another weapon in case we're not drawing the other weapons to just increase the amount of weapons that we have. But note that both the hand cannon is restricted, same with Yarm is also restricted. You only have max of 2 restricted cards, in play at a time. But fortunately, T'Challa's Black Panther upgrades like his Panther Claws are not restricted, so you can just have those 2 restricted cards from the aggression aspect and still have basically 4 weapons in play. The Panther Claws, the Yarm, the hand cannon, and the energy daggers all at once. And another really cool thing with the aggression aspect is that aggression has access to Psylocke, one of the best allies in the game of Marvel Champions, right? She's a 4-cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, and 3 hit points. She enters play with 2 psionic counters, and whenever she attacks an enemy, you can remove a psionic counter and then confuse that enemy and do 1 damage to it. So it's kind of like an on-demand confuse that you have in this ally right here. Basically, whenever you want her to attack the villain, you can do that and then confuse the villain, whenever you want. It doesn't have to be on the turn that you play her because she's not an event. That's very powerful because being able to confuse and flip down, as you guys know, we'll be able to trigger the Golden City here, and we can stack the Golden City with Hall of Heroes also in aggression, whereas the Archie Action exhausts Hall of Heroes, remove 3 glory counters to draw 3 cards. So T'Challa is wiping out a bunch of minions, with his firepower, and with Yarm, you get those glory counters. When you're in Archie Eagle, you can exhaust Hall of Hero, draw 3 cards, and then also exhaust the Golden City, draw 2 more cards for 5 cards, and you have that easy access to Arch Eagle thanks to Psylocke, who you can easily afford with Vibranium. So yeah, I think that all that works really well with T'Challa's kit. I think that there's a lot of synergy there, and I definitely really enjoy playing T'Challa in aggression with firepower here. Note that we also have Professor X to also help us flip down. Same with Gambit, allowing us to scry a little bit to help us flip down more as well. So finally, for the last part of this video, let's jump over to an example playthrough here that I have with Black Panther versus Expert Ultron with the Infinity Gauntlet, because I wanted to give him, that what if scenario, and it definitely makes Ultron pretty difficult with that Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Stones. So we're just going to pick up here near the end of the game where we do our big burst damage here, and Ultron has 18 hit points left right now, and we're at 9 life. I believe that we just played a Wakanda Forever right here, and then Ultron in the stage 3 gives each minion plus 1 hit point. So I think I'm holding onto an Ultron Joe minion that we just took out, playing the Wakanda Forever, and the first thing in the sequence is that we use a Panther Claws to take out this 2 hit point Joe minion, and then we're going to finish off the game here for you guys. So Joe minion is defeated now with the Panther Claws, so now Ultron can take damage now. Okay, So now we're going to do the energy daggers. Choose a player, deal 1 damage to villain and each enemy engaged a player. So 1 Ultron brings it down to 17. And then we'll do final step Vibranium Suit. We're going to move 2 damage because of the final step sequence, go from 9 to 11, full life, and put 2 damage to Ultron, brings from 17 down to 15. Okay, I'm going to skip a bit here to where I use Yarm. This has the attack keyword right here. So since we just attacked with the Vibranium Suit, we can trigger Yarm. After you attacks an enemy, it doesn't matter if it's through a special here. We can spend a physical resource to deal 2 damage to enemy. Declare the Quinn character's watch to be physical. 2 damage to Ultron brings us from 15 down to 13. Right. Then we are going to use a resource here to play Firepower. Here actually exhausts up to 3 weapon upgrades you control. We'll do 1, 2, 3. That would do 9 damage to Ultron, bringing it from 13 down to 4. And then since it was an attack, we can also spend a physical resource here with Yarm again to do another 2 damage to enemy. That'll bring Ultron from 4 down to 2. And then we have Mockingbird can swing for 1. I'll bring from 2 down to 1. She'll take a contour damage. And then we can swing here for 2, exhaust a hand cannon, remove a counter. So we get +2 for attack, 4 more damage here on Ultron. Bring him all the way down to 0. And we also had Gambit here to swing for another 3 damage. Yeah, so there we go. We had the big push on Ultron. I think we did like 24-ish damage. In that final turn, we triggered Yarm twice, played the Firepower for that full 9 damage. And of course, you guys can also put a Warrior skill in the deck to increase the amount of damage for each instance of the Firepower. So instead of doing 3-3-3, it would do 4-4-4. Crazy powerful there, but I don't really think the extra damage is necessary because we already have a bunch of damage here. But yeah, this is definitely, in my opinion, the best way to play Black Panther. Let me know down in the comments if you tried a similar build to this using Firepower with T'Challa. And let me know if you guys agree that this is the best way to play Black Panther. If not, what do you think is the best way to play this hero? I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope you're enjoying this series. And I'll see you guys all in the next one where I go over another hero from Wave 1.